Hello and welcome to another podcast. Today we're going to talk about my favorite gentle exercise when someone is having a lot of pain. This is always a little difficult to explain this. It's always a little difficult to explain how to do an exercise in a podcast, but this is such a simple exercise, one that a lot of people are already familiar with, maybe a couple of tips and tricks, if nothing else, and we'll have some videos on Instagram and Facebook to help you out. Okay, it's called abdominal bracing. I'm doing it standing. You can also be laying down, or probably the best time for most people to do this is while sitting, either driving or at work. So first, just put both hands right above the bony part of your hip on your sides, with your thumbs pointing toward the back and the fingers all pointing toward each other in the front. And the movement is very simple. You're going to tighten your abs as if you're expecting somebody to hit you with all their strength in the stomach. So you are not bloating your stomach out. You're not pushing it out like guys do when they pretend that they're pregnant. You're not sucking it in like a bodybuilder would do. Instead, you're tightening your abs in the front as if you were expecting to get hit. And you're going to notice when you do that, well, first, let's back up a minute and stick your stomach out and see what happens to your fingers. Your fingers point more straight ahead when you stick your stomach out. When you suck your stomach in, suck those muscles in as if you're trying to touch the stomach muscles to the spine, then you see just the opposite, that your fingers start pointing in. When you do the brace, you're going to find that your fingers and your hands start pushing out on the sides. It's kind of an unusual movement, and it took me quite a while to really get this down. It took a lot of practice. I think the best way to do it is to start out by doing no more than 5 or 10 seconds at a time, and then rest for at least 30 seconds to a minute, then repeat again 5 to 10 seconds. There doesn't seem to be a big advantage of doing it for more than 10 seconds at a time, and at some point you have to start using more of your back muscle in order to hold it. One of the questions that I'm most often asked is, what kind of exercise can I do when I'm in a lot of pain? It's a great question. My favorite is something called abdominal bracing. It's always kind of hard to explain this, in a podcast, but we'll have some pictures on Instagram and Facebook. There are some pretty good videos, but surprisingly not many. And I think that most former back pain sufferers that you talk to are going to be familiar with bracing. It's one thing that keeps the spine in a straight, so-called neutral position without any bend. And it's something that almost anybody can do in any time. You can do it lying down, sitting down, or I'm doing it right now standing up. While driving is a good opportunity. You start by putting your hands right above your hip bones. So your fingers are facing your belly button and your thumbs are facing your spine. Then first let's talk about what not to do. Try pushing your stomach out like guys do when they're pretending that they're pregnant. And when you do that, you'll see that your fingers will push off to the side and sort of straight ahead. If you suck your stomach in as if you were a bodybuilder and you're trying to get the tiniest stomach, then just the opposite. Your fingers start pointing toward the center, toward your belly button, but deeper down. Instead, you want to pretend that you're going to get hit as hard as possible in the stomach. So you're going to tighten your stomach. And when you do that, your fingers and thumbs stay in pretty much the same direction, but they get pushed farther apart. So if you can just imagine that you had a measuring tape, and this is a pretty good trick too. You can hold a measuring tape between your hands and waist, and then as you tighten, you're going to see that the measuring tape starts to stretch out further. You don't need to do this very long. About 10 seconds at a time seems the max. You may want to start out just doing 5 seconds and then resting for 30 to 60 seconds before doing it again for 5 seconds. A lot of former back pain sufferers tell me that they do this all day, every day. They'll do it when they think about it. They'll do it when they're driving. They'll do it before they go to bed and as soon as they wake up. I think it may be more effective than many back stretches are, especially first thing in the morning when there tends to be a lot of fluid between the disc. Good enough. We're not going to spend a lot of time in talking about what muscles become activated, how much they become activated, how much force is generated. I just don't think that's at all necessary, and we want to make these podcasts brief and to the point. If you are interested, you can email me. I'll put some of that information in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening. See you in a week.